On our wedding day, my fiancé had me stabbed 8 times, just to kill our unborn child and steal my dream for another woman. When I woke up, I heard him say it himself. He never loved me. This time, I'm not the victim anymore. When I was 7 weeks pregnant, my fiancé, Brian Dominic, an internationally acclaimed chef, had postponed our wedding 7 times. His reasons always revolved around his adopted sister, helping Livia with her first recipe, assisting Livia with a national conference, or even just Livia wanting company. I was angry, but Brian immediately knelt down and apologized. Then, as compensation, he said he would give me an old restaurant by the sea, my dream place. So on the 8th attempt, I believed we had gotten through the worst. But it turned out that on that very day, my life almost ended. In front of the altar, a group of masked men suddenly stormed in. I was dragged into the forest and stabbed 8 times in the stomach before everything went dark. When I regained consciousness in the hospital, I heard the doctor's voice behind the curtain. Behind me, Mr. Brian, everything went according to your plan. The 8 stab wounds successfully caused Miss Elena to miscarry. She won't be able to move freely for 3 days. My brain refused to comprehend the reality, until Brian's cold voice was enough to shatter my world. Good work. Besides, I never needed a baby from her anyway. My trembling hand reflexively went to my stomach. The wound was still wide open. My chest felt tight. The doctor walked out the door without realizing I had heard everything. I grabbed my phone and called Brian with trembling hands. I wanted to ask him why he did this. Why he could kill our baby, and for pretending to love me for 3 years. But the voice that answered wasn't his. Hello, sis? How does it feel to wake up alone in a hospital bed? Let me explain everything. Brian loves me. You were just a tool to achieve my dreams. To explain everything, you can check my social media. Livia hung up before I could say a word. Breathing heavily, I opened her social media account. Finally participating in Europe's best culinary competition. On the screen, Livia smiled broadly while holding the competition's golden ticket. Brian's arm was wrapped around her waist. My eyes widened. One photo and a caption stabbed me more than any knife could. Everything finally made sense. My bogus Door Europe golden ticket had been stolen, along with my signature recipe. I had trained my cooking skills for 3 years, sacrificing so much of my life to achieve it. But Brian stole it and easily gave it to Livia. 3 years of my love turned out to be just the time he needed to steal my dream and hand it over to his adopted sister. The cruelest part is that he got me pregnant not out of love, but so that I would stay until he got everything he needed from me. In my wheelchair, I insisted on going to report it to the Culinary Association. I would say that it was my ticket and my recipe, but in front of that large building, Brian suddenly appeared behind me. His hands held the wheelchair until I couldn't move. Elena, it turns out you're a reckless woman. If you keep sabotaging Livia's dreams, your father in prison will die upon hearing something bad about you. I froze. What do you mean? Brian calmly showed him his phone screen. The fake news was ready. I was accused of climbing the culinary ladder by selling myself to great chefs. The media would spread it. I hired someone to create fake news. Your father has heart disease. How do you think he'll react when he finds out about all this? It felt like my body had been thrown into an icy waterfall. Father, the only family I have. Completely innocent and uninvolved, yet used as a tool for Brian's gain. He was in prison for past accusations, and now Brian was putting his life in danger. My emotions rose to my chest. Brian, don't involve my father. None of this will happen as long as you obey. Brian cut in lightly and too casually. My hands clenched tightly on the wheelchair. What else do you want, Brian? Easy. Cancel your report, he said lightly, as if he were telling a joke. Just say you're injured, so Livia will replace you in the elite competition. Then your father will be safe. I fell silent. A single tear fell from my eyes. I stared in disbelief at the man I thought had loved me 3 years ago. Now he stood there, destroying my life just for another woman. He didn't even care about my condition, nearly dead after 8 stab wounds to the stomach, nor about our miscarried baby. Elena, don't think too much. I know you love your father very much. My mind suddenly felt empty. I had lost so much already. My dreams, my unborn child, and now I didn't want to lose my father. Just like that, my whole body went limp. I couldn't say anything except the word, yes. The smile on Brian's lips immediately widened perfectly, satisfied. His hand moved to gently stroke my hair, just like he always did to me. I wanted so badly to pull away, to slap him, but I didn't have the strength. Good, dear. Now I'm going to take Livia to a place where she belongs. He stood up. Then, as if it were an act of kindness, he added, my driver will pick you up later and take you back to the hospital. I'll cover all your medical expenses. His cell phone vibrated in his pocket, and he answered it with a sweet expression. Okay, dear, I'll be right there. After the call ended, he looked back at me. His smile widened. I know you've loved me for a long time, Elena. As a fitting compensation, I will still marry you. Then he turned and walked away. I stood frozen, hearing his last words. Marriage? Who would want that after their whole life was destroyed? This is crazy. I hadn't even thought about it anymore. Brian is so cruel. I thought that 3 years of loving him sincerely was the best decision. I thought we had been growing together all this time toward marriage and a happy life. In reality, he destroyed my dreams and my unborn child without a shred of guilt. Through this pain, I dialed the number of someone I never thought I'd call. Zidane Xavier. The person who hates Brian more than anyone else. The owner of the largest fine dining restaurant chain in Europe. Elena. Do you realize who you're talking to right now? My heart immediately began to race uncomfortably the moment Zidane's deep voice rang out. Besides being known for his culinary expertise, Zidane had a reputation for being ruthless and cold. He was dangerous. I felt like backing away, but the sharp pain in my stomach reminded me once again of all Brian's betrayals. You once offered me a spot in your culinary group. I'll accept now, but there's a condition, I added quickly, without hesitation. I want the best lawyer you can find. 7 days. I want Brian and Livia to pay the price. A week later, my father must be released from prison. Then I'll file another lawsuit against Livia. A low chuckle sounded on the other end of the line. Brief, chilling. Then came a firm reply. All right, I'll take care of everything. Suddenly, the door burst open just as I was about to close my eyes. I had just returned to the hospital and was receiving the intensive care Brian had promised. Elena, come with me. Brian grabbed my hand, trying to pull the fort out of my arm. Sir, I'm sorry, but Miss Elena needs rest. She just had abdominal surgery, said a nurse watching over me. Brian stared at the nurse blankly. I'm paying you to keep quiet. The nurse immediately bowed her head and left. Meanwhile, I watched as Brian's hands hurriedly removed my fore. He wasn't skilled at it and struggled. Let go. I can do it myself, Brian. But it was too late. Brian had succeeded, but blood was gushing from my hand. The pain choked my throat. What are you doing? Where do you expect me to go after all this chaos? I asked angrily. Brian ignored me. Panic had been etched on his face from the start. Then he dragged me out of the hospital toward the car. My blood dripped onto the hospital floor. I struggled, but Brian used my lack of strength to his advantage. On the way, I realized the car was heading toward a place I knew all too well. The European competition. Livia needs your help, Brian said without looking at me. She said she forgot some ingredients in the recipe. To make sure Livia succeeds, you have to help her behind the scenes. Are you serious? I choked, fighting the urge to vomit. After taking my recipe and my ticket, you also want me to help Livia win the competition of my dreams? Brian stared at me intently. A look I'd never felt before. Just do as I say, then our wedding will still go ahead. I spat. Rage flared in my chest. Who wants a wedding? I want to leave you. Brian just laughed. Loudly. Leave where? Do you think you have a place to go? What culinary group would take in a cripple like you? You're lucky I'm being kind enough to take you in. My eyes stung. My chest burned. Unable to take it anymore, I opened the car door to get out. I wanted to jump. I didn't care if I got hurt. The pain of seeing my dream competition was torture enough. But Brian saw what I was doing. The moment the door opened, he actually sped up the car. A strong wind hit my face, making it hard to breathe. I wouldn't just get hurt, I'd almost die for nothing if I jumped. Go ahead and jump if you dare, Elena, Brian said casually. Why are you backing down? Brian swerved the car left and right on that empty road. Aren't you the one who wanted to leave? My hands gripped the car seat tightly. I tried to hold on and not fall. The jolting made my stomach ache again. He only stopped when he saw that I had turned completely pale. I was nearly losing blood and control. We arrived at the luxurious building that had once been my greatest goal in life. Take her away. Brian didn't let me look for too long. He ordered his men to drag me away. They took me to a damp, filthy place beneath the building.